should be on. And if so, then that would be great because I can start sharing some pages with you guys, some pages that people popped in. And yes, the chat is working. I'm ridiculously happy that it is. Ah, yay. So let me bring that doc up so that I can see it and I can watch when you guys comment. All right, so to welcome to the manuscript feedback session, which is where I will give you some feedback on your pages. And one of the things that I wanted to start with, I'm gonna probably have to edit this beginning part out where it's a little bit weird because of uh I'm trying to put my picture in the middle there more because of the whole chats issue. Is I was going to show you guys one of my pages from before. Um, Let me go back to this one, and I think I have to choose that on my live stream thing and choose the right window. Let me hide this window and pick a different window to show you guys what I'm talking about with my very first one, not my very first book, one of my first books, and how I changed that from the beginning to how it is today. Okay, um, that should be it. Okay, so this is the first page of a proposal, not even a proposal yet. I think this was actually the rough draft of it, of what became the perfect recipe for love and friendship. And the sun in here is crazy, so I ended up closing my blinds. And I thought I would start where the trouble starts. And this isn't bad. It's just that I had so much backstory that, not backstory, but so much history that I needed to get in there, like why she was there and what she was doing. I felt like I was starting too late and I needed to start a little bit earlier. So I did a couple of other versions of it before I got to my proposal version, which I'll show you guys next. Um, that is the version that was sent in to my editor that was my proposal. And so that's this one. I think that's the one you guys can see. And I can't see it as well as you can because I'm on this thing. If there, it should be the one that says, if there's a reward for the craziest life decision, that would be it. Um, Craziest life decision kind of starts it a little bit earlier, but that kind of gives me the impetus for her ordinary world for just a single page. And that's where I have her driving down to Florida and heading north, I mean, heading south from Boston and all of that because a lawyer had shown up on her doorstep with a will. And I liked it, but I was still feeling like it wasn't really setting up for the reader what this actually was. And that that was what they bought. That was what my editor bought. But it just wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. I really wanted it to be a little bit more, a little bit stronger. So let me show you what happened after. I'm going to switch to another page and I will show you how I edited the heck out of this and changed it after that. Let's pull up that last version of it because then you can really see how I changed it from there. So this, I ended up deciding that it didn't have enough strength to it. And I really wanted to have a hook. And so I changed that first line to Olivia made the most insane decision of her life in less time than it took to microwave a burrito. So then I've set up for the reader. This is going to be a little bit funny. And this is a big hook right here that she is making a huge decision in her life. And I really wanted the reader to have that promise of what kind of story this is going to be. And so instead of having the telling of if there was an award for craziest life decision, I took that out and I made it more active. Olivia Linscott made the most insane decision of her life in less time than it took to microwave a burrito. So now hopefully I've got you hooked with a little bit of humor and a little bit of something that really gives you that hook of what this story is going to be about. That I figured would be a good way for the reader to really see what was going on and what I had in there. I'm going to put. I can't even figure that out. I was going to say I'm going to put my image up there, but you know what? I think that is beyond my pay grade for what I want to figure out. Wrong version is up. It's not the one that says if there was an award for the craziest life decision. Oh, probably because I am looking at the wrong page. So what happens is that on my end, when I choose to switch windows, it pops up with what I'm going to do, and then I have to go ahead and click OK, and then it goes. I'm still learning the software, and man, it is a pain in the neck. But StreamYard really does have me with that $300 a month, $300 a year thing. Okay. So, anyways, I have, if there was an award for craziest life decision, which is what you should be seeing now, and you do, I can see that on my phone here. This is the final version, what I took from the proposal version and what I turned it into for the very final published version. And that's that first line where it's a little bit funnier, it's a little bit more active. I took out the was and I used the verb of Olivia made the most insane decision of her life. I really wanted it to be stronger and to have more of a hook for the reader. And I loaded up her car. I kind of did everything a little bit stronger because you see how before there was some was's and some time things and a little bit of um, telling and a little bit of dragging in there. I really wanted to tighten it. So it was just a small amount of tightening to take from what sold to what ended up becoming the published version. And then I added the Olivia's Heritage reduced to a 9 by 12 manila envelope because I wanted to set up for the reason why she's there, and that is because she wants to figure out who she is. And then I really wanted to start bringing the reader into where she's at. 48 hours later, she's in sunshine instead of snow, catching the scent of ocean instead of exhaust. So I've taken the reader from the past, which I had in that first paragraph, and then the reason why she's there, the motivation, and then boom, brought them to the present day. So her ordinary world, quote unquote, is 2 paragraphs long, maybe 75 words. It's really, really short. And then I brought it right down to Florida, which is where the book is set. And I wanted to add a little bit more kind of emotion where I said down here she could breathe, really breathe, so that we're getting just a little bit more of that. The call to her mother had happened later in the book in the first version. I moved it up because I wanted to have some action. Somebody had asked me in the live chat on Friday, what if I don't have another person in my scene? What do I do for action? And I really wanted it to be a lot more active with her, and she could talk to her dog. She has a dog in the scene, but I didn't want to have that happen. I really wanted her to have somebody else to talk to. So I brought her mother into the scene, which is what ends up happening. She calls her mother and she talks to her mother, and there's just like a page maybe of dialogue, not a whole lot more. And you can start with the past half a mo just very fast. It was literally a paragraph and a half. It was not that long. And it was an active class. That's the difference with the let me bring my page back up. Oh, I don't have that page on there. I'll bring the right page and I'll show you what I mean about the different active past, which I think is this one. I am figuring all this crap out. Anyways, I had a more active past because I really wanted it to be more inviting, more exciting, more showing, more everything. So here is what I had that became active. It's instead of if there was an award for craziest life decision, which is telling, Olivia Linscott made the most insane decision. So the made is more showing, and then so is the most insane decision of her life in less time than it took to microwave a burrito. Shows kind of her personality a little bit there. And it's a lot less telling than what I had before. And yeah, I have before she could think twice or worse, hesitate. That's telling. But again, active. She packed what remained of her belongings, loaded um, the car, loaded up on gas and 5 hour energy drinks, then ditched her life. So you see how these are stronger verbs rather than she had packed or she had ditched or she had done whatever. All of these are stronger active verbs rather than having all of this was if there was kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about with making it more active as opposed to less telling. Hi, Cheryl. Nice to see you here. And I do have your pages. Got to remember, I got to figure out how to bring them up. And I've been on my other camera, my crappy camera all day. So I'm going to forget, I think, to look at the good camera from time to time. So that's kind of that comparison thing. I'm going to have to do that again and show you guys that again in another live because I know that this one was just like riddled with problems, of course. What else is new? It's just been a heck of a week, a very, very busy week. But yes, thanks to Tearstone for helping me today. And obviously, I still have a lot more to learn because I didn't learn it all. All right, so Cheryl, I do have your pages, and thank you for being so patient before. I'm going to fix it so that I can show that page on here and then bring it up for you. Window capture. Okay, there we go. Cheryl, if you're ready, do you want me to go forward with your pages and what you asked me about? Because I think that this was good. I think you did a good job. I think that it just needed to be a little bit more active and a little bit stronger. And I can talk about that in just a second. You have a lot of really great descriptions in this, and I liked that. All right. I'm assuming that's a yes. Yes. Is the sound working? It says it's working. It says it's working. I'm not sure because I can see it on my little monitor here with the it says it is with the little thingy majiggy that I have. It's like a okay, good. Whew. I was like, oh my gosh, I went through all this time today with this guy from the channel who helped me with this. And oh my gosh, if the sound's not working, I'm just gonna cry. Okay, so let's go to your pages there, Cheryl, and hopefully you've got your sound working and you can hear what I have to say. And if not, then we'll redo it, right? Okay, so what I thought you had was like a lot of really good descriptions, but tweaking it a little bit more can make them more powerful. So you have the old woman's eyes fixed on me, and that's just a personal nit. Eyes don't actually do things, gazes do. So her gaze fixed on me, and then we kind of took out some of the telling, the word, right? If you said mottled gray swirled with murky white in the filmy cataracts covering her eyes, ghosts, mottled gray swirled with murky white in the filmy cataracts covering her eyes. It's a lot of words there. Ghosts floating above her pupils. So that now you're showing right here with the ghosts floating above her pupils. It's a really cute, not cute, but really cool and powerful image of what is going on there. Hey Heather, nice to see you. And yes, thanks guys. It's so frustrating this whole thing. I'm telling you. All right. And then I think that you really wanted her actions to have a little bit more of motivation in there. So I moved up. You think just because you're young and full of tricks, you can just waltz in front of me and take my bread. We're all waiting as equals. So what you had her say that a little bit longer in the next paragraph with her doing another action, but you've already got her right there. Let's move this along just a little bit quicker. And then she says, no one person is more important than the other. Then I like that. And then it makes more sense for her to, point towards the mayor. Your family's doing better than anyone, while the rest of us barely scrape by. So I think you needed to add a little bit more in there to explain what she means by that. And then your character needs to have a reaction because remember, it's action and impact, action, impact, new action. So she stands there frozen, words formed on my lips, but never made it past my mouth. So again, you're not telling so much because you've got some pretty powerful verbs in here with formed and stood, um, and never made it past my mouth. It's a little bit stronger than telling it. Now let her cross her arms and take a step closer. And I want to know exactly what they did. We worked the fields day and night before the scorching that you lot brought down on us, which I like. And then let's drive that home with you destroyed us right there. And your character needs to again react. And so maybe she starts saying, I tried to. Then the lady can say, don't even try. I know who you are, what your family is. Then she's going to start noticing the crowd because I think it's going to happen a little bit differently than the way that you had. It was really good. I think you just needed to tighten it and move it just a little bit. The crowd's attention drifted from the mayor and over to the woman and I think it's I there. I don't know. I'm not a copy editor. Questions raised in their eyes, suspicion, fear, because this is the reaction of the crowd. So see this stuff happened here. The lady spat on the ground. There's this whole argument going on, and here's the reaction of the crowd. So that's what we've got. We've got action, reaction going on. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the thing. And then again, the the people act. They look at her with questions, suspicion, fear, and now she's going to have a reaction to that. I deeply regretted using the grand magic. One foolish decision. I think it just needed to be a little bit stronger. One foolish decision was going to get my family banished is stronger than I could get my family banished because this is telling you exactly how she feels about it. One foolish decision is a little stronger, a little more showing, and it tells you how she feels about it without telling her. Forever. This argument needed to end now so that the forever gives you the motivation for why she needs to add the argument. Because it's not just that her family could get banished, it's that they could get banished forever. And Again, a little bit more showing. Instead of just saying, I pleaded with a growing tightness in my chest, I pleaded, period. A desperate growing tightness grew in my chest. That's just, it gives the reader a little bit of time to absorb the pleading and then to feel this desperate tightness. And you have the lady grabbed her arm, which is great, but let's make it more powerful. Let's really make it a visual. The old woman reached out fast as a snake and grabbed my arm. That really shows the reader what is there. And you have the spark travel between us, but you don't have the motivator really for that to happen. So the second her skin met mine, spark travel between us. And then I want you to draw this out just a little bit because this is a nice hook, a spark of magic. So that's why I put that little line in there so it can draw out just a tiny bit more. Um, and why did I cut out bog witches? Let me go back and look at it and see what oh, no, I didn't cut out bog witches. I added bog witches. I added it to the end because instead of what Cheryl had before was, oh, yes, I know exactly who you are, what your bog witches, what you are, wait a minute, what Cheryl had before is, I know exactly who you are and your family as well, bog witches. So that's not as impactful by putting it before the spitting, because if you spit first and then say bog witches, that shows the reader how she feels about bog witches. So don't even try, girl. I know exactly who you are, what your family is. Spit bog witches by just moving it just a teeny tiny bit, it makes it much more powerful. It makes it all about what she actually thinks of bog witches. It's not just having it there, it's where you put it in the sentence. So I know who you are, bog witches is a lot more powerful than I know who you are, bog witches. You see what I mean? Like just a teeny tiny movement can really make it way more powerful. So everything that you had there, Cheryl, was really good, and I enjoyed it. I think that just tightening it a little bit and giving it more action reaction, so that you're getting more of that impact on the page, and tightening it to show a little bit more and tell a little bit less would really take that up a lot. So when you get it back from me this afternoon, turn off the track changes and just read it the way that it's rewritten, and you'll see how much stronger it is that way, um, and how just some tiny tweaks can do that to it. So, all right. So I don't see Rob here. Rob also submitted, but I don't want to go over his pages if he doesn't, if he isn't here. But I'm going to send your pages over real quick, Cheryl. I think. Oh, wait, I don't have your email address in front of me. Um, let me pull it up because I know it's in my form, in the form. Ah, individual. Okay. No. Yes. Okay. I've got your email address here. I'm just going to send over your pages and your page and see if you have any other questions. So if I can send it while we're doing the live stream, then you can have a second to look at it and ask me any questions that you have. Mm, there we go. All right. Okay, so did you guys have any questions on what I said? And I think it's going to be a lot easier when I go back to my other thing to really show you guys how I did it. I'm telling you, it was just a bad start. And I have been in meetings since 10 this morning. So I'm also like really tired. My brain is fried. I still have another meeting at 6 tonight. It's a busy week. It's a busy week. And Thanksgiving is here in the US on Thursday. So I've been cooking like crazy and cleaning because I think I told you guys I am like OCD about Thanksgiving. Like I take it very seriously. So, and happy Monday, Heather. Gosh, I'm so glad it's a short week. All right. So tell me if you guys have any questions on that, Cheryl, and if you got it there so that we know if there's anything you want to see. What else would you guys like to talk about in this manuscript feedback? Because I don't see Rob, so I don't want to do his feedback without that. And I only had the two submissions, which reminds me, I should drop the link in there. If you guys want to have your pages done for next time, then I'm going to put the form link in the chat. All you have to do is submit the form and I'll give you some feedback. It's just 200 words, a limit of that, because I want to show you how every single word can count. And if you look at how the changes went into Cheryl's with just that little bit of showing, a little bit more powerful and a little bit stronger with the actions, it's just like buffing it a little bit to get to that next level. You can see how you can make 200 words really powerful. That was a really strong section of the scene, too, between this old lady and the main character. And I like that a lot. And just taking it just a teeny tiny notch up can make a huge difference in your book. It's somebody asked on the channel this week. Actually, I had three people this week. I think it's because I talked about hiring professional editors. Three people had asked, what if I don't have a budget for it? And that's why I started these manuscript feedback sessions. And also why I started doing the consults and everything else so that people can do it that way. And FMO, yes, that's a good point. I don't know how many before and afters I have. I actually have one other one that I can probably bring up that I can show you a before and after. I don't know if I've shown you guys this one before. Because I don't save my originals very often. Every once in a while, I have an original and I can show you guys that. But most of the time, I just write right over it and don't even think about it. I don't know if I brought this one before looking for it. Of course, I can't find it there. I have a before and after here. No, that's not it. That's the wrong one that I'm looking at. Um, so if you can see the difference between the beginning and the end, sometimes that really, really helps. I know that. So, mm, and of course, I'm not. There it is. There it is. There it is. I found it. Yay. Now I'm just waiting for it to load. Okay. So this is from one of my romance novels. It's called The Miracle on Christmas Eve. So let me go over to my page and bring this up so that then I can bring it for you guys and show you. Yes, you do have so much information to get in at that time. So this is from a book called Miracle on Christmas Eve, and it won an award, I think, the year that it came out. I don't remember. It came out a long time ago. It's one of the few that I saved. So this is what you see in black is the first draft of the scene. And then the blue, everything that I added in the blue was after I did the first draft of the scene. So this is about two-thirds of the way through the romance, and the hero and heroine are together. And the premise of this book is that Sarah plays Mrs. Claus, but her husband died a couple years ago, and she doesn't want to play Mrs. Claus anymore. CJ has just found out that he has this 5 or 6 year old daughter, and he doesn't know anything about how to raise kids or anything like that. And so he really wants to give her a miracle on Christmas Eve by having Mrs. Claus show up and wish her a happy birthday. So now I have a little bit more in here. So Sarah is his little girl, and CJ's the dad, and Jessica is the heroine. And what's going on is that, he's kind of not knowing what to do as a dad. He's a guy, right? So finally, he gets his daughter dropped off at this birthday party or something, and he drives Jessica back home because she helped him with that. In the end, they'd opted to take his truck. Good thing because a mild winter storm started up as soon as they left the house. That's just a telling little thing in there, but I wanted to say why they were in this truck. And I wanted to set up for what's going to come in what I added in the scene. So, this little bit of telling, this one line, is going to set up for some other stuff. So they're in the car. There's the action. They're going home, right? Here's the reaction. Already he was wishing the night didn't have to end, that he could find a way to extend the moment between them because he'd found himself enjoying it more than he'd expected. It's the reaction, it's also the romance plot. So when you're writing a romance, you've got all of these layers that you've got to be in there with. And so it's not just the actions and the reactions internally, it's also the romance. And so he thinks to himself, yeah, there was a real time waster, CJ. And I think it was for what happened in the scene before. Now I've got this storm. And I realized I really wanted to use that magic of a winter storm. I used to live in Massachusetts and Indiana, and I really love the magic with snowstorms. So I had originally just had that the snow started up, dusting the windshield with white powder, coating the streets with a fine sheen of pale, which is great, right? It's got a really good image there. It's really good showing. But now let's really start seeing the Christmas part of it. The moonlight haze through the storm, dropping a veil over the sky. Several houses had their Christmas lights burning, providing a twinkling accent to the snow. Coupled with the Christmas carols playing softly on the truck's stereo, it all had that special holiday glitter, whispering that something wonderful was on its way. And, we're coming up on the Christmas season here ourselves, right? All of us. And you know how that little bit of magic comes with the Christmas lights and with the the snow, and if you live in a place with snow, I don't anymore, thank God. But you know how that all creates that little bit of magic that really just makes you feel like anything could happen. And that's really what I wanted to get across with that paragraph that I added. That's why I added it. I wanted to just not have snow on the page. I wanted to have a reason for the snow and impact from the snow. Talk about impact all the time in the videos. And that's what this does. It has an impact on the character. Okay, so let's move on a little bit more. For a second, now remember, action. The snow's falling. He's seeing the Christmas lights. Action. Here's the reaction. For a second, CJ watched the snowfall, transfixed, wrapped in the spell believing in that something wonderful too, until the click of the door handle. So here's his reaction. He's thinking, well, maybe something magical can happen. And then she opens the door. So what is that? That is conflict. The door handle jerked him back to reality. And he's like, don't go, not yet. And she's like, I have to go at first. And then she glanced at him and back again. And she says, I have a minute. So what is that again? That is conflict on her part. That's not just, her getting out of the truck. It's her showing her conflict. Like, I'm getting out of the car. Looks over at him. I have a minute. So you see how that's working with the romance. It's not just about him not wanting her to get out of the car. It's also about her own conflict of staying with him. So she closes the door. And he sits there and he's like, okay, I've got to tell her. And see how much I added to the scene, how much I layered in. So she had helped his daughter with like her hair and, girl dads, like a lot of guys do not know how to do girl hair at all, right? They have no idea. So Sarah wanted her hair in like ponytails or something, I think, and he was having a really hard time being a dad. So Jessica had come and helped him. So he's thinking where to begin to tell her how grateful he was for her help. She'd smooth things over so well his daughter would run out of the truck with a wave and a smile, no longer the sullen child who'd refused to look at him. Jessica had done so much more than just give him tips on girl hair as she'd worked the ponytails. She'd given him hope. So this is his reaction. This is the sequel to the scene that came before. Because in the scene before, she helped his daughter with the ponytails or whatever she was doing. And this is his reaction to it. Wow, here's a little bit of a connection with my kid that I've been struggling with so much. And so Jessica does this little thing. And now, in the sequel to that scene, he's thinking, man, I am very grateful that she was able to do this for me. So that gives him a little bit more of a reason to get close to her, which is the whole point of the romance, right? And the hope that he has here, and this is like super key, hope that if he could figure out the ponytails, maybe he could get the harder parts under control too. This line is his internal conflict. This is not about the romance. This is about CJ not feeling like he can be a dad. He gets this kid at the very beginning of the book because his ex-girlfriend dies. She had never told him that she had a kid. She dies. This kid shows up on his doorstep and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to be a dad. It's kind of throws an entire monkey wrench into his life. And he has failed miserably up to this point. It's not that he's been a bad dad. He just, if you've never had a kid before and you get like a 5 or 6 year old, and this 5 or 6 year old is traumatized because her mom died and she's traumatized because it's Christmas, she's traumatized by a bunch of things. It's not an easy road. And I cut the whole fatherhood thing to make it more specific and visual. Let me see what I'll get back to that. I'll look at that specific line in a second. Okay, so let's go back to the pages so I can go back to that for you guys. So he's been really struggling. And so that hope that if he could figure out ponytails, maybe he could get the harder parts under control too. That's a guy thought, right? About his emotions, because men don't typically, some do, but typically they don't go deep into their emotions. And he also was not going to go deep into his emotions with her. He just says, thank you. You've helped me tonight more than you know. She says, no, it was nothing. And he says, no, it helped us turn a corner. And he knows, though, that like this is not forever. Like he's going to be on his own, which means he still needs a miracle. So her whole goal with not being Mrs. Claus is that she doesn't have any Christmas spirit because her Santa, her husband died a couple years ago. So he's like, if I can prove to you that there's Christmas spirit here, will you stay and help me do this? So it's just tiny little tweaks in here. And instead of she turned, she shifted in her seat to face him just a little bit more. And I want to keep echoing in that setting, her features delicately lit by the streetlight above, giving her an almost ethereal presence. So, the whole angel Christmas thing. And I kind of extended the timeline because of what I ended up having him do. I really needed to extend the timeline for him, so I gave him 2 days instead of 12 hours or whatever it was before. So he needed a little bit more time, to do what he was gonna execute, so that's why that got changed. And let's go back to what he does more. And I changed his last name, not a big deal. She's got a plane ticket to Aruba, and he's just like, "Stay." And she asks, "Why is this so important to you?" And he says, "Because I'm her father." And this is such a guy thing. There were more reasons than that, but he didn't share them. There were simply things he didn't tell other people, doors he didn't open even for himself. And what is that, people? That right there is internal conflict. And that internal conflict is, guess what? Interfering with the romance. So because he's not opening up to her, this is only about two-thirds of ish through the book, halfway, two-thirds. Because he's not opening up to her, that creates conflict in the romance. And because he's not opening up in his own head, he's not even thinking about it on purpose, it's creating conflict for his goal. Because you know what you've got to do in order to get your kid that you don't even know to bond with you? You've got to open up, you've got to be vulnerable. And right there is his conflict. And the whole reason why he is not achieving his external goal of giving his daughter that he just found that he has an amazing Christmas. So that figures right in there. His whole issue with not talking to people about what went on in his past. It affects everything in his life. So that's why that's such a critical line and why I added that there. Um, and she was really kind of mean back to him. So I took that out. You weren't there for the first 8 years of her life. Now you want to be parent of the year. That was kind of mean. So I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I don't think Jessica would say that. So I took it out. So instead, I have him just seeing the doubts in her face and he's going to just give a little bit of an explanation. Um, I live my life constantly reminded that I was the result of someone's one night stand and a backseat mistake, and I don't want my daughter to feel that way. And he talks a little bit about his ex and what their relationship was like. And he really wants her to have this Christmas. And he says there's no more Santa. He died 2 years ago. And he now realizes this is especially why she wanted to avoid the holiday. She finally opens up to him. So we're at the two-thirds point of the book, and she's finally opening up and saying, "This is why I don't want to have Christmas. My Santa died 2 years ago. It makes the holidays really hard for me. I just don't even want to do it. I don't want to go back there because it reminds her of what she used to do with her husband." So she finally is opening up to him about what's going on with her. And so what does that do? That helps heal a little of her internal. And you can notice the difference, by the way, between how much he opens up and how much she opens up. And it also kind of advances the romance a little bit. Um, she gets out of the truck because she's like, "I'm not going to talk about this." She gets out of the truck. He gets out and he runs after her and he says, "Wait, please." And so I added just that little bit to just extend that out. "Jessica, wait, please." Um, and then I just wanted to have a little bit more echoing of what I already had and a little bit more of the romance. So when she turns and looks at him, he says he sees something he hadn't seen or had in his life for a very long time, something he'd given up hope on thinking he could ever find or have. What did I say in the beginning of the scene? He talked about how the snow kind of felt like it was magic and hope for him. So they get kind of close, they sort of kind of kiss. And then I've got to have a little bit more of the romance, a little bit more of the sexual tension. And so he, thinks about how her name is. And her husband had been dead 5. And then I was like, that's a long time. So I changed it to 2. So now I just kind of want the romance to kind of come along a little bit more because I've got all of this other stuff that's going on in both sides, right? I've got her getting out of the truck, him trying to build this relationship with his kid. I've got all this stuff going on. And I've got to remember that this is a romance. So you got to keep coming back to the romance over and over again. Whatever your genre is, and it doesn't have to be romance. If it's suspense or if it's a thriller or whatever, you got to keep coming back to that element of your book. Um, I had to come back to that. And so I wanted to add the echo of what I already had before. Remember, I added that snow and the haze and all of that from before. And so now maybe it was the snow, maybe it was the connection he felt, maybe it was just him being selfish. So he realizes that he should not be pushing her. And he says, "I'm sorry." And she says, "For what?" And he says, "I'm going to make things twice as difficult. And so I changed it, gave it a little bit more time. This is what I mean by kind of letting your scene breathe a little bit. By dragging it out just a tiny bit, you increase the sexual tension between the hero and heroine. And this is a sweet romance, so there's no on screen sex. Um, you drag it out, you create a little bit more of the reader wanting them to kiss, a little bit more of that kind of stuff. And, this, I'm using like Christmas analogies here, holly red lips, that kind of stuff. And then for her arms went around him, and for one sweet moment, CJ felt as if he'd come home. So remember how I've talked to you guys before about moments of hope and despair. That is a moment of hope. We've had a bunch of them in here. He's had this little moment of hope with his daughter. He's had this little moment of hope with the girl hair stuff. He had this little moment of hope where Jessica comes and stays in the truck, but they're offset by the moments of despair when she gets out of the truck, when he realizes that eventually he's not going to have Jessica there to help him. All of these moments of despair that offset the hope, and that creates that push pull inside you for the reader to be like, oh my gosh, is this going to work out? Is this going to work out? So they kiss, and things get a little more complicated because now they've kissed. And like I said, this is about the two-thirds point. So this is a turning point for the romance. And then the kiss is over right away. And yet it touched something in him that lay deep inside, as quiet as this town. It was a kiss that held the same whispered promise as the snow. So again, I'm echoing everything that was in there. And this is the promise that he's hearing in that snow, that something wonderful was on its way if only the right flakes would fall at the right time. And yeah, it's a little cheesy, but I thought it was cute. Now we come back to, why can't they be together? Because she says that wasn't the wisest thing to do. And she has a little bit of a wobble in her voice, but that tells him, that shows him that she's affected by this. But then he realizes that his priority is his daughter. So he's got to hold off on the romance. And so then she's like, nope, I'm just not going to do this. And so she turns away. She goes into the house. The light in the hallway stayed on for a moment, then went off, effectively shutting him out. So I'm using this thing again to kind of show what's going on. And then I end it with the little hook. She needed a Christmas miracle, and he intended to give her one. So I've created this little bit of a romantic moment between them. But again, there's conflict. She's got other things going on. He's got his kid. And there's a whole lot that has to happen in order for them to come along and get together. And so that's that whole thing that I created in that scene, was that whole push pull thing. So Half-a-Mo asked, I cut the whole fatherhood thing to make it more specific visual. I don't remember that line. So let me go back up and look up there. Um, it's probably because I just didn't want to, because it was too much telling. So if you look, let me show you that section right there and why I changed it. It wasn't just that, it was because it was a little bit too much telling for me. So originally I had, he drew in a breath, ran a hand through his hair, and I tend to do that a lot. And so I tried to take that out. This whole fatherhood thing was going about as badly as it could. That was the original. And that is all telling, was, and the ly word, all of it. And Jessica had given him a reprieve with the bow tying. It's all telling. So what if we could do it with more pictures? Smooth things over. His daughter ran out of the truck, a wave and a smile, no longer sullen, and worked ponytails and hope, all of these more powerful words. So it's created a more visual, so that we're not just telling what happened in the scene before, we are showing the impact of Jessica's actions on his daughter. So she's not looking like a brat. She's much happier, and she's waving and smiling at her dad. So that's what that was about. That was about, let's show this a little bit more with actually showing the impact on Sarah. Then when she ran out of the truck, she was like, yeah, see you later, dad. And she's really happy. And he has this moment of hope that maybe it's all going to work out, followed quickly by a moment of despair, because pretty soon Jessica will be gone and he'll have to deal with this himself. And Half-a-Mo asked, do I usually have the heroine able to open up earlier? Um, Not always. It depends on the book. It depends on whose book it is. So this is CJ's book. CJ's the one that really needs to learn the most and grow the most in this book. And so he was the last one to open up. And the healing moment for him is more impactful than it is for her. She's just kind of basically got to decide to live her life again and move on from losing her husband. He has a much bigger road to go down. So in this particular one, because she wasn't as damaged as him, she opened up first. I have a couple of others that I can think of off the top of my head where the heroine just kind of keeps to herself until the very end. Yes, showing the impact should go on your wall because that's really what you want to do. You want the actions and the visual that you create to show the impact rather than you just telling the reader, she was so happy, she was smiling, she was doing this. Let's show the kid running out the truck with a wave and a smile. That is, the reader can see that kid coming to life. So Cheryl, hopefully you got the page back and you were good with that and it was okay. And really everything was there. It was just kind of rejigging it just a tiny bit to have more impact. Just like with the bog witches, putting that after the spitting is so much more impactful. So you had all the pieces there, just kind of tweak them just a little bit. There wasn't a ton of changes, I don't think. I think it was just kind of getting it back into a tighter format. Okay, do you guys have any other questions on that? Or Cheryl, do you have any questions too? And I apologize again for not having it. Like my internet went out. It's been spotty internet here ever since the hurricane because they'll fix one person's and it'll knock ours down and stuff like that. It's not as bad as it is obviously in like North Carolina and Georgia, but every once in a while we have our internet go out because of whatever's happening at somebody else's house. Two commercial romances, male female, often seem to have stronger issues for the male, right? They're written by women, right? Well, they're going to screw up those men. But no, I do have some very wounded women in some of my books. I think for me, at least as an author, it is easier for me to write men with issues than women with issues, which is weird because you would think because I'm a woman, I would know that better. And I do. But you know how like a lot of us are just like outside therapists, like we can look at our friends and go, that's your problem. That's what's screwed up about you. I think it's easier to analyze somebody that's outside of yourself and not like yourself. With 99% of my books, I would say I'm a little bit of every single character on the page. I had this series with these old ladies that lived down the street that were super cranky and never liked anybody, and they just walked around with their dogs and they didn't talk to people. And I was like, I'm that super cranky lady that just wants to stay in my house and not talk to people. Like I'm a little bit of everybody. Yes, Cheryl, add emotion and add the impact because it's right there. It's just kind of taking it to that next level and really upping it. So what I was saying before is that three different people, I think this week or the last couple of days, asked me on the channel about what if I have no money for an editor. I did do a three-part revision series on there. And I realized that a lot of people cannot afford an editor because hiring me is not cheap. Hiring anybody else that's a professional, this is not cheap. If you do want to hire an editor, if you find somebody, absolutely ask to see the before and afters of their work so that they should be able to share that. They should have some clients that said, yes, you can share this. I do. I have clients that have said, yes, you can share my before and after so that my clients can see this is how much work I put into this. I don't just like do a buff pass. I've interviewed editors where I have made them show me before and afters. And if I'm finding typos in the editors after, then I'm a little concerned because they didn't obviously put the time into what they needed to do. And if you're sending it to me for a job as an editor and you have typos in your final work, not a good sign. So there's been people that I haven't hired to work for me because of that. So look at what their work is before and after, and then also talk to some of their clients, and then check out how the clients' books are doing on Amazon. If they say, I worked with these five people, go see how those books are doing on Amazon. I've done that before too, where I've looked to see what the reviews are saying, and the reviews are saying this book was flat, these people didn't have any emotion, or these characters were not believable. And yes, part of that's the fault of the author, but part of that is also the fault of the editor. If the editor can't come back to the author and say, listen, you need to up the emotion here, and here's what I recommend for you to do, then that is not a good editor. You want somebody that's actually going to tell you what's wrong with it and how to fix it, rather than somebody that's like, oh, I love it. It's so great. Everybody's awesome. These are great characters. It's not helpful to you at all. It's all about kind of really going in and fine tuning it. If you built a house for the very first time, and you had some blueprints and you built the house, guarantee there would be a lot of corners that weren't quite joined right, or some walls that were on level. Like I watch building shows with my husband on YouTube, and these guys, even though they're professionals, have to rip stuff out and put it back because the crown on the wood or whatever makes it on level. And that's a professional. I have editors for everything that I do, and I'm a professional. So it's not unusual to need somebody to tell you how to make it better. And yes, half a mo, your work, own worst enemy writing fiction. I am always thinking that my work is awful. And there are times, I think I've mentioned this before, like there are times when I will get my final proof of a book and I will be like, there's no way I wrote this line. This is such a good line. My editor must have added it. Maybe the copy editor added it. And then I go back to my original draft and I'm like, oh, I did add that. And it's sort of verification that, yes, I do kind of sort of know what I'm doing. One of the things that I'm working on a book about something that has to do with manifesting for one of my clients. And so I read a ton about that. And one of the things that Dr. Sarah Swart, I think her name is, Dr. Tara Swart, I think is her name. She's an MIT lecturer and she's a specialist in neuropsychology and manifesting. He said, you have to give yourself proof of how you have done this right before. So if you look at this line and you're like, this was an amazing line, remind yourself that, yes, I can write. Look at this beautiful line that I did. Maybe I didn't do 50,000 words worth of those beautiful lines, but I absolutely have the ability to do it. So all of it is just growing and learning and becoming better. You're not going to be perfect the first time you do anything. You're not going to be perfect the 10th time you do it. My books still get edited, and I've written more than 100. I published at least 88. I think I just stopped at 85 because it was a good number. Published at least 88, maybe 89, and written way more than that that didn't end up getting published. And I still like to have somebody that's a professional go through and say, you need to add the emotion here. You need to do this. You need to do that. So everybody can use some help with that and everybody can take it to the next level. It's about learning how to go from where it was to this. And Cheryl, don't feel bad because look what I did to my own, right? Like learning where you need to do that and why you're going to need to do that and how you can do it. That's the whole point behind what I try to teach on the channel. How do I learn to do this? How do I learn to put this into my own book? Okay, so Rob didn't come, so I won't do his until next time, probably. And I didn't see any other questions from you guys. So if you're watching this and you're like, my manuscript sucks, blah, 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 or I really need some feedback, go ahead and submit. I put the link into the chat. It's also in the description of all of the videos, and I can do it the next time. We only do this every 2 weeks. So I will do it again in 2 weeks, and then I'm not sure how the Christmas holiday affects it because it might affect it. That's like above what I can think about right now. I may or may not do it on the 23rd. Might be busy with family. And everyone likes to get a Valentine, but they never help you with your self-improvement programs in tarot. Yeah, that's true. And you're absolutely welcome, Half-Mo. That's what I'm here for, is to answer your questions and to save you guys all of the years that I spent struggling, not knowing what the hell I was doing in any way, shape, or form. And I'm trying really hard to show you guys how that happens. And I'm gonna have to find some of my older, I mean, more recent books so I can show you before and afters. I might have some that the proposal I still have. Most books I just sell on idea now to my editors. I don't have to write a proposal. So I don't always have a before. I just have the done published book. So I will look and see if I have some other ones that I can show you guys next time. So you guys can see that this is exactly what I do to myself. And it'll take multiple drafts for me to get there as I go over it and over it and over it and polish it and make it better. So thank you guys for joining me and for putting up with these stupid little glitches with the chat and everything else. But I figured it out. So I know I have to change that setting for the future ones. And I'm going to try this software again on Friday. Because this is my last month with my StreamYard subscription. So hopefully I can figure it all out, master it. And just like you guys are figuring out how to master a book and be back with an even better stream next time. So thank you all and have a great Thanksgiving. If I don't talk to you, oh, I'll be here Friday. So have a great Thanksgiving and come on Friday